Imagine needing help sourcing products and services for your neurodivergent child and not knowing where to look, where to find it, or even if there is something like that that has existed before. That's exactly what happened to mum Anita Ahern. She is a neurodivergent mum who has a neurodivergent child or children, I think, more than one child.
Children, yes.
Children, thank you. And she needed this directory and couldn't find it, so she created it. I'm Angie from My Bodyguard, and let me introduce you to Anita Ahern, the founder, the owner of Living on the Spectrum. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Angie. That was a lovely introduction. Thanks for that. And I feel really old because my children at the time when I started were children, were kids, and now they're young adults navigating the world. And I'm so proud that I've had such a huge impact on making that navigation easier. And I'm hoping that I'm helping other parents also.
Well, I'm pretty sure you are, and hence why I thought we better have a chat. So, the struggle was real, as you said. So, you found that there was just nothing out there. Was it not knowing where to look, or that just wasn't in a place that was easy to navigate? What was the actual struggle, do you think?
So when navigating, this sort of all came to a head when my son, he was, between the ages, he was struggling, but he's at age 10, he started to really struggle. When he was about 12, that transition to high school, it really came to his head. His mental health
Mhm.
went to pot. He really struggled. He didn't want to attend school and he was just in a really bad place. So we decided through lots of therapies, psychologists, psychiatrists, speech therapists, we came out with an autism diagnosis,
Mhm.
which was a huge relief to know how
Yeah.
we can now assist him.
Mhm.
So we weren't, it wasn't really a shock. I think we were just grateful that we had a basis now to help him on this
Confirmation.
journey. Confirmation,
Yeah.
exactly. And then I did I call it doom scrolling on Google. When you get into Google, my child has autism. Will they have a job? Will they get married? Will they lead a normal life? And it's all those really negative things that you go to because you don't know any different.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
spent hours and hours and hours on the internet, and it was just awful things I was reading, and I really wasn't getting anywhere. And I kept thinking, why hasn't anyone put all this information in one spot? Why? Why? Why am I spending hours? It seemed like a no-brainer, right? To have everything in one spot. And I went, you know what? I'm gonna put a little directory together, thinking just gonna do it for myself. And it just snowballed. And 5 years later, here we are with Australia's National Autism Directory.
Wow. So it's been going for 5 years.
Absolutely. Look, we launched in the end of 2019.
Yeah.
Was when we sort of I built the first website myself, very crude DIY GoDaddy site that I built myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we slowly built up the momentum,
Yeah.
and in June 2022 was when we did the big relaunch from kids on the spectrum, because we're only a service for children
Yeah.
um, to living on the spectrum, because
It keeps
autistic
going.
kids grow up to be autistic adults,
Yeah, that's
and we decided to launch Living on the Spectrum in June 2022.
wow. And did you realize the enormity of this? Did you so it's full time for you now, right?
Absolutely. I When we did the big relaunch,
Yep.
I decided that this was going to be my full-time gig.
Yeah.
And I'm now, well, when I say full-time, I don't work traditional 9 to 5,
Yeah.
because I'm neurodivergent and ADHD and all those things that go along with it. So I put in probably about 10 hours a day, anywhere between the hours of 6 a.m. and midnight, just
Right.
whenever I can
Yeah.
work. So I actually have a very flexible work days, because that's just the way my brain works. And I decided on the relaunch I was going to put everything into it. Yeah, so it became my full-time job.
Wow. What were you doing before? What was your gig before this?
Oh, wow. Well, you know what? Before COVID, I managed an indoor play centre.
Oh,
And yeah, and look, there was a job that I had for a while. It was great. I worked on weekends because I could really navigate that around my family, and especially, a son who was struggling, and my other children have since got their diagnosis. But this was a great job for me, and before that I was in, believe it or not, commercial, office furniture. I designed offices, and I was a corporate interior designer. So I've had a very varied career, but I've mainly been in sales and marketing.
Yeah, yeah, I think that shows. I think because it is all what I get is it's all in its place. It makes
Yep.
simple explanations. Like there is skills behind being able to. It's not just a list, is it? It really is the program that you can follow from that diagnosis instead of the doom scrolling, as you call it,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
which is real. Ah,
Yeah.
interesting. Okay, and do you remember who your first listing was?
I don't remember who the first listing was because I literally just spent hours just finding all these, and I would group them. I'd go for inclusive dance classes, and then I'd go group it into art therapies. But my very first paid listing was an organisation called um, oh, I can't think of them now. They do the. I'm not going to say their name because I'll muck it up, but I do remember who
Yeah,
who, who my
that's all right.
first
Yeah,
listing was,
yeah.
and they're still in the directory. It's Exceed Brain. I can't get the thoughts, but they're still with us, which is amazing. But we've got just over 800 people in the directory now.
Well, I was going to say because I wonder what number my bodyguard was, because I like things like that. But yeah, well, we joined a couple of months ago, I think.
You did, and I love the fact. I always say that when you join the directory, you're not just a number. I live and breathe everyone in our directory, and I think I
True.
shared a conversation where even in my private,
Yeah,
personal, I go to a music therapy class with a family member, and someone was wearing my
bodyguard watch.
bodyguard
I can't
watch.
believe it.
And it only came about because I started talking about, things that had helped, wandering and what would happen. I said, "You know what? I know something that'll help." And then they showed me the watch and I go, "Oh my God, my work here is done. It's
Yeah,
done."
it's
Yeah.
perfect. I love it when your worlds collide like that. But thank you for the pitch. I really appreciate it.
Yes. Look, I'm always talking, and I always say I've got stake in the game. So this is not just
Yeah,
a job for me. I
yeah,
always say I've got stake in the game. Whatever I can do to improve life outcomes for autistic and neurodivergent people, because it has a direct impact on me, it has a direct impact on my family.
yeah,
If it has a direct impact on them, it has a direct impact on other families who are exactly like us. So it's not just a job. This is what I live and breathe because it affects us and it's
yeah,
personal.
yeah. I agree. Did you find when you first started doing this and it became like the full time that your friends and family were supportive, that you were leaving these other, good careers of design or, the how were they supportive? Were they thinking, is there a full-time gig in this? Or were they like, you got this, this is exactly where you're meant to be?
Well, it really kicked off, it really just launched before COVID hit.
Yeah.
So it was all very new and sort of just something that I was doing on the side. But during COVID, we were in complete lockdown. So this became what I did all the time. Actually, it was my sanity because I was focusing on something. I lost my job.
Yeah.
As much as we like to bag Dan Andrews, he was paying me JobKeeper, and I
Yes.
was throwing all my JobKeeper into the platform. So it gave me a little bit of money to play with the
And the
business.
time. You would
A-
never have
a-
had the
yeah,
time. You would never have
I
had the time.
If it wasn't for lockdown, I'm not quite sure the platform would be where it is today because I spent a
Um,
lot of time on it and it was really, what else would I be doing otherwise? I'd just be, in a
Can't
Netflix
imagine your
state
world any other
with
way.
a bag of crisps on the couch. As it is, I put on too much weight, but at least this kept me.
Lockdown did it to all of us. Let's be real.
It gave me something to focus on and something to do, and it really saved me in those really dark, lonely, isolated, confusing times. So
Was
I'm
for
grateful the
that.
platform could do that.
Yeah, we did similar. We Erica, the owner, and Simon, our
Yep.
IT guru, we pretty much sat on Zoom the whole time because we're all in different parts of the world and in lockdown,
Yeah.
and we rebuilt the platform ourselves or the website. We actually spent all our time redesigning and doing everything ourselves because when else would you have had time? So,
You wouldn't, and you wouldn't have done it justice, and you wouldn't have, it would have not have been as good. So, I mean, I don't ever want to go back into lockdown again. Don't get me wrong. But I think I really appreciate the things that it did allow us to
Yeah.
do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd have to agree. I'd have to agree. Now, when we got out of lockdown and we back into doing expos and all that sort of stuff, which is where I met you. I think it was in Canberra, I think it was.
Canberra, I think, yes.
And we were that was meant to happen, like as soon as I met you, I went, this was meant to be. But when we met up in Adelaide, so we've just come back from Adelaide in the ATSA Expo there, you were one of the guest speakers, which I knew you were last time, but I didn't go to it in Canberra. I didn't know you. But I went to it, what was it called?
Sensory worlds,
Navigating.
navigating sensory worlds.
Yeah. So it
Yep.
was amazing. So the upshot to everyone else listening, it was talking about how they're not, shouldn't be classified as fidget toys. They
Toys.
should be sensory aids. And
Yep.
honestly, it smacked me in the face. It was a
Yeah.
brilliant, brilliant talk. But that's what I wanted to give hats off. Did you ever realise you were going to be a sought after public speaker leading into this? Because there's a skill. Most people would prefer to stick a needle
Not
in their eye than talk to strangers on a stand. And you do have your neurodiversity as well, but you do it so well. It's so
yeah.
relatable and natural, and you just did it so well. I wondered if you realised that's where your life was going.
Never in a million years. And in fact, I've just put a LinkedIn post up. You know, I struggle to read only because I can't, you know what I mean? I could read a page of a book and not realize what I've read. I could read the same line. I just find it very difficult reading. I have dysgraphia, so I can't write properly.
Yeah.
So now, like I write in national publications, and I'm a public speaker, and I think, oh, how did this happen? But I love talking.
Yeah.
I think because I just want to share all that information of lived
Yeah.
experience and what I've learned through the platform. And yes, you're right, sensory toy. You can see I'm playing with a. I have something always in my hand,
Always.
and
Oh, you said that in your talk, I remember. Yes.
I always have something that helps me focus on what I'm doing. And yes, I'm trying to educate and help people understand that those sensory tools that we know as fidgets, and a lot of us refer to them as fidget toys, are in fact sensory aids. And I think we need to try, especially in school for our
Yeah.
kids, we need to move away from this, stop playing with that,
Yeah.
stop fidgeting with that, and instead, if that helps you learn, more power to you, and you use that tool to help you focus. And I don't know why we are stopping kids especially from doing that. And I think, it comes back from years ago, if I let one child have it, then all the children
Yeah.
have to have it. But in fact, if it helps us learn, why wouldn't you let every child have it? And when you think, if you look at the statistics about how many children do not finish year 12 or do not go on to further education or are experienced school can't or are self-harming, or if we look at those statistics, we really have to ask ourselves, they might seem like little changes to us, but they are
Very
significant
impactful.
in life
Yeah.
outcomes. So sensory aids, I have boxes of them.
Well, I've even got one in my spare room. We had guest day the other day and they came out and I said, "Oh, is everything in your room? You got a towel?" They go, "Yes, everything's there. Even my fidget spinner, thank you." And I hadn't even
Amazing.
realized it was a big deal. It was just on the bedside table for them. I don't know. But yes,
Yeah, and
I did
look, and
call
that's
it a toy though. I won't do that
yes,
anymore.
that's the thing. I'm so passionate when I talk because I really want neurodiversity and those types of things to be not an afterthought, but just a general acceptance. I mean, when you're at work or when you're at school and you say simple things like, "Oh, I'm going to the bathroom," nobody questions you about why you have to do that. It's just you're just doing it,
Do it.
right? It's
Yeah,
just like
yeah,
a no-brainer. Or
yeah.
if someone, is in a meeting for 8 hours and they get up and stretch their legs, you ask them, "Why did you want to stretch your legs?" It's just a no-brainer. So when people are using these
Yeah.
aids, I don't want people to actually notice. It's actually I just want it to be an everyday thing that's just accepted. I
Yeah.
don't want to actually do I don't I highlight it now, but I'm hoping in the future that it's just going to be one of those things that just happens and everyone just accepts it as the thing we do.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. You'll see me in my little Zooms, not on a recorded one like this, but I've got shoulder. I'm always doing my shoulder stretches, and
Yeah,
I've got a little wobble board that I stand on, and I'm always doing this, and because that's good for my body. So
yeah.
I just do it. But yeah, I like that.
And we spoke about this, didn't we? Because, you said you like to run and you like to run until you feel it. And I think that's all about understanding your own sensory needs,
Yes.
what you need and what your body needs and what makes you feel good and feel better and be able to work and regulate.
Yeah, the exercise for me is a release, and I have to do it all the time.
Yeah.
And I like feeling sore the next day. So I like, they call it DOMS, but I like the pain.
Yeah.
I like the pain to know that I've worked hard enough. So it's very interesting. Which reminds me, you told us a story about a Coke bottle. Can you
Mm,
share that? Because I
okay.
found that again
Yep.
smacked me in the face. So if you could share that with our audience, that would be lovely.
Yeah, and this is I have to say this isn't actually my story. This is something that I've heard
Yeah.
along the way, but I think it's a really great analogy. So, you know, and this could relate to children and adults. It's just
Yeah.
anyone who experiences sensory overwhelm. So, if you imagine your day and you get up in the morning and you haven't had a great night's sleep, say you've only got really 2 hours of decent sleep. So, we shake that can a little bit. The can is perfectly fine. Then we go to work or we go to school and it's really loud and we can't get our thoughts and we're stressed out a little bit more, shake the can a little bit more. And then we perhaps go to work and the boss says to us, I'd like you to do this report. Just have a look at this report and tell me what you think. And you go, well, what does that mean? Do they want me to correct the grammar? Do they want me to make suggestions? Do they want me to make sure the font's the right size? What does that actually mean? So, you're stressing out.
Yeah.
And for school children, it might be the teacher, berating a child for not doing their homework. They're stressed out. Might be you've put on a shirt that has a really itchy tag. Shake the can a little bit more. Then what happens is you go home and you go to your safe person. That could be your mother, it could be your partner, it could be your grandparents, whoever it is. And they ask you, how was your day? And you've literally just popped that lid. And because you've shaken it, it explodes everywhere. And that's how we explain what a meltdown is. So throughout the day, you might be perfectly fine because that can of Coke
You're holding
looks
it in.
fine. It's all compressed in there
Yeah.
and you're absolutely perfect. But when you go to your place, you open the can and all that pressure is released. So you have the meltdown. So you might, be teary. You might want to curl up and go to sleep. You might not want to talk to anybody. And then what happens is, especially as a parent of the child, you might go to the teacher, my child has sensory overwhelm. They get overwhelmed with things very easily. And the teacher will go, no, they're fine at school. I don't see anything wrong. We don't need to make adjustments. They are perfectly fine here at school. Or
Oh,
you might, especially at work, a lot of us are afraid to disclose our neurodiversity to our employees.
yeah, yeah.
And we might go, I need a quiet place that I can go and eat my lunch. I don't want to talk to everybody in the lunchroom because I need that time to decompress and relax. And the boss goes, you work. You work really well under pressure. We're going to keep doing exactly what we're doing because you are,
You're so
you're
good
a
at it.
trooper. You're great at it. So we're
Mm.
not going to make any adjustments. But what they don't see is that
It's
pressure
the
that's
aftermath.
building up
Yeah.
in that can. And I think it's really important. That's why we talk a lot about masking. That's what masking is. It's putting on that front and not asking for help or support.
Yeah.
And I think we need to make it safer and have these discussions.
Mm.
So when we do ask for support, that we're believed
Yeah.
and we're not dismissed and people take it seriously.
Thank you for
I,
that. See, I told you it was worth it. I remember it from your talk,
yeah.
only 2 months ago, and it really. I came home and told my boys, and I was telling everyone. So I think it's that shared, as you say, it's not your own invention of the
Yeah.
analogy, but I think we all should be telling that story. And because
And,
I love a good analogy, and that to me just explains how people can walk in the door and explode.
and especially, too, if you're, if you're married or have a partner, um, they sometimes it's hard in a really close relationship for them to understand that as well.
Yeah.
And I think by sharing stories like this, you can definitely open up that discussion because, sometimes it's not, how do you actually start that discussion?
Mm.
It's easier at school because you have the formal meetings, not so easy at work because there are stigmas and,
Yeah.
you don't really want to sort of, you
Adults
feel like you're
now.
almost,
Yeah.
yeah. And everyone, you have to build resilience. Everyone uses this word resilience. And sometimes resilience can be used to foster unsafe environments for yourself. And I think we have to
Wow.
be very careful how we actually use
That
that
word.
word. I think we have to build resilience, don't get me wrong,
Yep, 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 yep.
but I think we have to do it in a really safe way.
Yeah, there is a divide in that. I hadn't thought of that actually. Thank you. Oh, well, see? Knowledge and information overload almost. No, that's good. What other question did I have for you? Well, apart from, did I ask you how did you vet people? How do you know who you're going to allow
No,
to come in
yeah,
if you're
that's
living on the spectrum?
yeah. So what happens is we get a lot of people who want to be in the directory, and I say no a lot
Yeah.
because I don't want the directory to be filled with providers and people who say that they offer a service to autistic or neurodivergent person when they don't actually do it. I had a florist that wanted to be in the directory because they had a lot of autistic clients, and that is great. But that doesn't show me, I emailed them back and said, if you could show me what you do as your inclusion policy, how, have you made changes in your store? Have you reduced lighting? Have you trained staff? And that wasn't the case. It's just that they had autistic clients and they wanted to be in the directory.
Right.
No, yeah. So I also had a curtain maker that wanted to be in the directory. So I've had a lot of weird and wonderful requests. But what I do is there is no classification. So you don't need to be an NDIS provider.
Yep.
All you need to do is have a policy in place or offer a service, support, event, or product to the autistic or neurodivergent or carer community.
Yeah.
And
True.
then I go and vet everyone to make sure that that's actually the case, and then they go into the directory. So if you sign up manually, you'll find that you'll be in a bit of a waiting period. I won't approve you straight away. That
Yeah.
gives me enough time to go into the website, check you out, make sure
Yeah.
that you're legit, make sure you actually do what you say you do,
Yeah.
and then I'll actually upload you to the directory. That's why we don't have 4,000 people in the directory, and we only have, at the moment, I say only because 800 is a lot.
It's huge.
It's huge,
Yeah.
and we're growing that every day because I'm finding really exciting, amazing people who are in the directory, who should be in the directory, who aren't
Yeah.
in the directory.
You
So
keep
it's an
coming in
ongoing
contact
process.
with new.
Yes.
I think the world is moving on though. Like I think it is a little bit of a watch this space. With being included or accessibility, or you talk about the lights, or I think this stuff is being talked about more, and it's becoming a little bit more mainstream. It's slow, but it is happening. It's not as
And that's the
uncommon.
fact, yeah. And that's the fact. As long as we're moving forward, I
Yeah.
think we're actually I know we'd like to be at a particular point faster. And, I've just spent 3 or 4 days in Adelaide talking about all these things. The National Autism Strategy, the draft is out, and we're asking for people to put in their recommendations, give us their thoughts on the draft. So if you haven't already, definitely go and check the
Thank you.
draft out. But that's why we are moving forward. I know we'd like to be there quicker, and the statistics around autistic individuals are frightening. I mean, I share the stats a lot because I want to shock people. I'm not
Yep.
doing it just to shock them for the sake of shocking them. I want to make sure that you'll know that, an autistic person actually does have a reduced life expectancy. A
Absolutely.
person with ADHD does have a reduced life expectancy, and that's not because they're born autistic or they're born with ADHD. That's because education is a struggle. It flows on to employment, it's social isolation, it's homelessness, it's drug abuse because they're self-medicating because they're not getting the support and help they need. It's all those things that add up. It's not being able to access public, health system, or or going into the mental health system, and your autism or neurodiversity is ignored. So you're sort of just bundled into the general, mental health system, and you're not getting the cause of the issue. Sort of, you're just treating the symptoms. And all those things add up. So I think if we can keep moving forward to address that goal of improving those life outcomes, then
Absolutely.
I'm
Yeah.
happy. Not I won't be happy until we close the gap completely, but we're moving forward, and I think that's a good
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, that's positive. Yeah. And I think with my bodyguard, that's what we feel is, and I'd actually like to ask you, but how do you see that we are helping your audience? I mean, I can answer that easily, but I don't know. Was a no brainer for you to add us? I think, as I said,
It was no
uh,
brainer, no
yeah.
brainer.
So how do you
Because
see?
we hear the stories on the news of the young autistic kids that go missing, that, there's searches, and that's not just in Australia. This is actually a global
Yeah,
thing. Recently there was a young boy in Sydney who went missing, who was hiding in a stairwell, I think. Then there was the young boy that went missing when they were camping. There was the child, that went missing. And we have these national news campaigns looking for these kids, and then they're the stories that we don't hear. The young autistic teenager who is so overwhelmed that they leave the family home just to go walking, and end up walking so far that they could be 3Ks down the road and
yeah.
not have their mobile phone with them, or not know how to contact. They might be non-verbal, so they can't just go and knock on a door and ask for help.
Help. Yeah,
And the My Bodyguard is not it's not a device to keep a child or an adult or a person where they have to be. It's to make sure that they're safe, and that they can contact whoever they need to contact immediately, and
yeah.
that they feel like they can navigate the world in a really safe and secure way. And it's also teaching skills, right? Because you might have a 10 or 12-year-old who's just going to the park with their friends, and you want to give them a little bit of freedom. I mean,
Yes.
you know,
Stretch
you
those apron strings.
you are still looking at them through the window, and you are still embarrassing them. But they need to learn skills
Mm.
and to be independent, and they need to feel that they can do that without, having mum or dad continually there with them. And with the watch, if they get into trouble, they can just,
Help, yeah, help
a
you there.
flick of a button, and then, mum comes bounding.
Do the
But
rescue.
we but also, I have a family member with dementia, but we were talking about, this is how the My Buddy came up. In that setting as well, it's a huge asset, and there's a lot of overlap between dementia and autism. I'm not saying, they're similar, but there are some overlaps
Right.
that I can see with both. So I think it's a huge anything that provides safety, security, and teacher skills. I'm a big fan of.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, no, I knew as soon as we met that it was meant to be, and we could definitely be part of your directory and get people to have that safety and that uh, their independence, but in a safe way. Oh, thank you for that.
That's
So,
okay.
what's next for living on the spectrum? Have you got some goals? Are you looking at retiring and handing it over, or is this just beginning? What's the next few years look like
Yeah.
for you?
Well, look, we have got lots of growth plans in the works. We really want to build out the platform. We publish a lot of stories and news articles, so we really want to take, the discussion about autism and neurodiversity mainstream. We don't want to keep it
I
just
like
in the
that.
disability bubble, or the
Yeah,
NDIS bubble.
right.
We really want to take it beyond and share it with everybody. So that's what we're really working on. And we're talking to some really amazing people. I am hitting the road more and more, as you know. I think I'm on a
Yes.
plane almost every other weekend now, heading off to another state, which I love. And I'm talking to schools and businesses and community groups, and, like people like the ATSA Independent Living Expos. And I'm
Yes.
talking to all these people and trying to let them know that, neurodiversity and autism and ADHD and all those things is not only a strategic advantage in business, but, there is this saying that, if it wasn't for autistic people, we'd still be living in a cold, damp cave, wondering how to heat up our meals. So I think
Yeah.
that there is a place for the neurodivergent brain,
Yeah.
but I also think it's important not to forget the autistic people who don't have a verbal voice, and to make sure that their message can be heard and shared. And I'm really eager to do that.
Oh, that's beautiful. So not only are you the living on the spectrum, the directory for them, I think you're also the voice, and it's obviously a space that needs it. So thank you for doing that. It's been lovely talking. I've really enjoyed getting to know, how you came about doing it and what inspires you. But as I know, I think you're amazing, and I just have to thank you for your time today.
Oh, thanks. Thanks. Yeah, I love talking. That's my thing. So I will talk to anybody. So as I said, if anyone is looking for information, it's livingonthespectrum.com. So I invite anyone to reach out. I will always I'm always on the other end of the phone. So if you do make that phone call, if you leave a message or send me email is always better, but it's always quicker for me. But I will always answer the call if someone says they want to learn more or they want to share their business, um, because I've got stake in the game. So yeah, thanks for letting me share that.
Say the website again.
It's livingonthespectrum.com,
So not AU,
not au
livingonthespectrum.com.
dot
Perfect.
com.
All
Yep.
right. Thank you, Anita.
Thanks, Angie.
Bye.
See ya.